October 26, 1881. In a Tombstone street, these men march toward a moment of truth. For over a year, the Clantons and McClorys have moved on a collision course with their deadly enemies, the Earp brothers. Now, at last, their hate will explode in the West's most celebrated gunfight. The Showdown at OK Corral. The Arizona Territory, 1879. This is the way it was before trails became main streets, before restless wanderers vanished into 100 boot heel graveyards, before the myths began. In the frontier West, America relives the legends of its youth. Yet we live less by the facts of our past than by the myths we weave around them. History itself sometimes has a bad memory. It's difficult across so many years, so many conflicting voices, to hear the hard ring of truth. In this retelling of the gunfight at Tombstone's OK Corral, we should examine the facts behind one such myth, recreating the events as newsreel cameras might have recorded them, had such cameras then existed. In a story more intricate and bizarre than legend ever told us, we shall retrace the steps to that fateful afternoon when the Earp brothers walked down Fremont Street and the world of the Clantons and the McClorys ended forever. It is a world still unfenced, a wild range, open to any man ready to risk his scalp to the Apache, a sanctuary for drifter and badman. Here for nearly a decade, early settler Newman Haynes Clanton has held rule with six-shooter and branding iron, running cattle with his sons, the moody and willful Ike, and 19-year-old Billy, already hardened by the hazards of the frontier. A neighboring rancher, Frank McClory, sometimes helps out on chores. Both Frank and his younger brother Tom claim to be respectable cattlemen. Yet friends such as the notorious Curly Bill Brosius can hardly make the same claim. The Clanton Ranch has become a frequent rendezvous for a loose assortment of known outlaws and desperados. Repeatedly, the Clantons or their allies have been accused of rustling and holdup, of raids for cattle across the nearby Mexican border, of ambushing traders' caravans. It's charged that the calves they brand are rarely their own. Despite the many rumors, the Clantons themselves are never arrested. But now, for the first time, they face a threat to their free domain. Like a mirage, the city of Tombstone has appeared on the empty plateau 12 miles from the Clanton Ranch. It is hardly 3 years since prospector Ed Sheppelin's pick struck pay dirt. Now, 92 mining claims honeycomb the earth beneath Tombstone's spreading streets. Drawn by the bonanza, a swelling horde of miners work night and day prying out the ore, feeding the vast reduction mills to produce Tombstone's lifeblood, the stream of molten silver that will total $30 million. But there are less arduous ways to strike it rich. In dozens of saloons, eastern dudes and frontier drifters gamble and drink around the clock. And like other boom camps, Tombstone offers its lonely, restless strangers professional entertainment for every taste. Amid the honky-tonks, an instant civilization has begun to flower. Into the desert metropolis, each stagecoach brings an influx of bankers, lawyers, teachers. Across the wasteland, the wagons haul brocades, plush furnishings, chandeliers, and imported luxuries. Fashionable couples shop along the dusty boardwalks and dine on French haute cuisine. But gunshots sometimes echo over the Duc l'Orange. All too often, the calm of peaceable citizens is shattered by bloodshed and holdup. In the close-knit Earp brothers, roving gamblers and lawmen all, respectability soon finds its guns. Already a man of formidable reputation, Wyatt Earp is an early arrival with his patient wife, Mattie. Like everyone else in Tombstone, all three are men on the make. Virgil, the oldest, is soon appointed Deputy U.S. Marshal for Southern Arizona. 30-year-old Morgan becomes a shotgun messenger, guarding Wells Fargo shipments, and is often deputized to assist law officers.
Here, Brownie! Ha, Brownie! Ha! Ha, Brownie!
Wyatt pursues a more profitable profession as gambler at the Oriental Saloon. At 33, Wyatt always has seized fortune as he found it. Caught in the westward tide, Wyatt has left his native Illinois as a youth. Hunted buffalo on the plains, later becomes peace officer in Dodge City. There, old friend Bat Masterson recalls,
I first met Wyatt Earp when he was hunting for buffalo skins in Oklahoma Territory. We were both young galoots who drifted west with everybody else. We didn't know much, but we were anxious to learn. One thing Wyatt didn't have to learn was courage. Later, we were both peace officers in Dodge City. It took a cool man in those days to ride herd in a town full of rambunctious cowboys just in from a cattle drive. Wyatt was that kind of man. Dependable, honest. In a tight spot, and we were in a few, there was nobody I'd rather have on my side than Wyatt Earp.
Now attended by more dubious companions, gambling partner Lou Rickabaugh, and an ill-tempered, consumptive dentist, Dr. John H. Holliday, Wyatt is unwilling to rest his fortunes on a turn of the cards. Already, he and his brothers have come a long way fast. They own major interests in at least 4 productive mines, have acquired real estate, entered the local political wars, and cultivated the friendship of the town's leading citizens. But some have mixed feelings about the enterprising Earps.
Yes, I knew the Earps. All of them. And their friend Doc Holliday. There was a man you'd cross on the other side of the street to get away from. They weren't easy men to like. Very reserved, never smiled. Virgil, I guess, was the steadiest. Morgan was easygoing, but a hothead. Wyatt dressed like a preacher on parade. Cold and dignified. A man you'd call Mister even if he was married to him. When they come to Tombstone, somebody just naturally had to step aside. And it turned out to be the Clanton-McClurry bunch.
Till now, Ike Clanton and his associates could afford to be careless of the spreading anger against the rustling and killing on both sides of the border. For among Ike Clanton's friends is none other than the county sheriff himself, John Behan. Practiced in the arts both of politics and love, Sheriff Behan is less active at catching outlaws. Indeed, he and his deputy Stillwell have been accused of complicity with the Clantons. Yet Behan, like the Clantons, soon feels the growing power of the Earps, though in a different arena. Brought to town by Behan, Josephine Marcus, an obliging actress, quickly shares her favors with another infatuated lover, Wyatt Earp. Against the Clantons, the Earps will draw first blood. Summoned from his card game by the town marshal, Wyatt quickly helps subdue Ike Clanton and his friends, firing their weapons in a drunken spree. Then, a single shot turns the spree into tragedy. The town marshal falls, mortally wounded, as he grabs Curly Bill Gross's gun. Instantly, Wyatt reacts. Later, Curly Bill is absolved of blame by the dying marshal, and Wyatt himself will testify that the shooting was accidental. Yet, the Earps' manhandling of the cowboys leaves in its wake a sullen hatred that all too soon will again erupt. The relentless march toward confrontation between the Clantons and the Earps has begun. March 15, 1881. At 11 p.m., the stage from Tombstone is 2 hours late, arriving at Benson, 24 miles away. Already the telegraph has reported trouble. Bob Paul, the Wells Fargo shotgun messenger, tells of an attempted holdup.
We just changed teams in Contention City and was rolling right along when they come out of the brush and told us to stop. 4 of them, maybe more. I couldn't see, all wearing masks. When I reached for my shotgun, that's when they started shooting. Killed a passenger and shot Bud right off the stage. By the time I got the team settled down, we was plumb out of range.
Now what you gonna
do? Yeah, I'm going back to meet the posse right now. Bud Philpott was a particular friend of mine. I want to see justice done, and damn quick.
In Tombstone, within the hour, Sheriff Behan, so often accused of slackness, assembles his posse. Now he is joined by men of harder metal, the U.S. Deputy Marshal Virgil Earp and his 2 deputized brothers. Suspicious rivals, the Earps and Behan tonight seem joined in single purpose, to catch the outlaw killers of the Benson stage. Only one bandit is captured and brought back to Tombstone by Sheriff Behan, while the Earps continue the chase. For quickly confessing, the young cowboy prisoner has named 3 accomplices, all close allies of the Clantons. Once again, Clanton's friends were the quarry, and once again, the Earp brothers were the hunters. Yet not one of the robbers of the Benson stage would ever be brought to trial or legally convicted. Overnight, the single prisoner and only witness mysteriously escaped from Sheriff Behan's custody. And while the Earp posse scoured southern Arizona for the outlaw fugitives, a war of rumor soon fastened suspicion on the Earp's own close friend and associate, the quarrelsome and unpredictable dentist, Dr. John H. Holliday. Trained as dentist, bred as a gentleman, Georgia-born Doc Holliday is more renowned as a brawling gunman. Moving west early, he takes as wife Kate Elder, a fresh young woman soon bruised by the frontier and a husband fighting death with rage and alcohol. Long a crony of Wyatt Earp, Doc's notoriety now makes him an easy target for rumor.
Wyatt runs a game here, but I don't trust any of the Earps, and that goes particular for their friend Doc Holliday. Even Doc admits he's a friend of the Benson stage robbers. They used to meet at a cabin, hardly a mile from where the holdup happened. I'd lay bet right now, if Holliday didn't actually lead the holdup, he sure knew it was going to happen.
Yes, I rented a horse to Doc Holliday the day of the holdup. Wanted the best horse I had. Said he might be gone a day or a week. Carrying a 6-shooter and a Winchester when he took off. He come back the same night, maybe 10, maybe 11 o'clock. He must have done some fast traveling. The horse was nearly rid to death.
Bull. All of it. At the time of the holdup, Doc Holliday was playing cards with Wyatt Earp down at the Alhambra. All of this loose talk comes from Doc having antagonized so many parties around town. As far as I'm concerned, he's a gentleman. At least most of the time. But if a man knows he's dying of galloping consumption, it's enough to make him a little irritable. Sometimes I think Doc would rather get himself killed in a gunfight instead of dying an inch at a time.
Doc has answered rumor in his own fashion, publicly declaring he will kill on the spot the next person who mentions stage or robbery in his presence. Now, after 4 weeks and 500 miles of hard pursuit of the Benson stage suspects, the Earps return, saddle sore, weary, and empty-handed. From Sheriff Behan, they learn that their one and only witness has escaped, and that Tombstone is alive with rumors against their friend Doc. By association, at least, the Earps now find themselves under suspicion of complicity in the very crime they've been trying to solve. But worse is to come. Arrested by Behan, Doc Holliday is finally charged with the Benson stage murders. The warrant is based on accusations signed by Doc's own wife, Kate Holliday.
Yeah, I signed that paper. What of it?
Well, Kate.
Mrs. Holliday.
Mrs. Holliday, isn't it true that you quarreled and Doc walked out on you?
Yeah, he did. After all I've done for that man, putting up with him, taking care of him, nursing him, he drinks just to catch his breath in the morning.
I hear you did a little drinking yesterday.
Yeah, I had a gin or two.
Is that why you signed the affidavit for Johnny Behan?
Sheriff Behan and Milt Joyce gave me a few drinks, and we started talking, and they drew up this paper, and I signed it. They were nice to me. Nicer than Doc Holliday ever was.
Doc's trial is brief, for the Earps, too, know how to play Behan's game. Strongly persuaded by Virgil Earp, Kate Holliday recants her statement to Sheriff Behan. It was given, she says, under emotional duress. There are no other witnesses ready or willing to testify. Doc is acquitted. At last, Wyatt Earp feels free to pursue a long-held ambition, to oust John Behan and become the sheriff himself. Already, Wyatt has the backing of Mayor Clum's daily epitaph. From the Citizens Safety Committee, a group of leading businessmen, he receives assurance of their powerful support. Intent on votes and Behan's lucrative office, he courts the public, a visible symbol of law and order. But the Clanton Ranch remains a stronghold of enemies. Deeply bound by old loyalties to friend and family, the Clantons and McClorys and their allies hold themselves apart, avoiding an open clash. Yet their hatred of the Earps, and Wyatt in particular, is not forgotten. Quick to sense a challenge, eager to prove his superiority even over his younger brother Billy, Ike Clanton is often a loudmouth braggart, but he can be a bitter, truculent, and sometimes treacherous foe. More than anyone else, he has kept alive the rumor that it was Doc Holliday and the Earps who engineered the Benson stage holdup. But it is Ike's friends who are being hunted. As rewards are posted for each outlaw, a daring and reckless scheme takes shape in Wyatt's mind. A grandstand play to impress the voters and make him sheriff. Secretly, he proposes a deal to his deadly enemy. If Ike will lure his fugitive friends into Wyatt's hands, Wyatt will take the glory. Ike will get the $6,000 reward. Ike agrees to consider the deal. A wild gamble, surely. But then, Wyatt Earp was a gambling man, and he had much to win. His reasons were clear. But what of Ike Clanton's motives? Was the $6,000 sufficient inducement to betray 3 friends to his most hated enemy? Or did it go deeper? Cool, aloof, and superior, the Earps were a walking challenge to Ike. In his braggart's heart must have lain the rankling suspicion that they were better men than he was. But now, Wyatt had come to him. They would be conspirators, partners, equals. The temptation to Ike's pride must have been irresistible. Yet, in busy Tombstone, private deals quickly become public gossip. Local Wells Fargo agent Marshall Williams recalls,
having handled all the messages to the Wells Fargo main office, I had pretty well figured out the deal Wyatt was trying to arrange with Ike Clanton to catch the Benson stage robbers. Now, personally, I thought it was a damn fool scheme, especially with a man as touchy and mean as Ike Clanton. But Wyatt wanted to be sheriff awful bad. Ike wanted the reward payable dead or alive. I guess if he was going to sell out his friends, he'd rather have them dead than looking for him. I should have kept my mouth shut. I happened to meet Ike in a saloon one night. I just mentioned that any deal he made with Wyatt was okay with me. That was when the fat hit the fire.
Go on and $6. You'll give me 75. Oh, you're...
Furious, Ike is certain he has been betrayed by the enemy he briefly imagined a partner. He accuses Wyatt of having told half the town that Ike Clanton was ready to sell out his friends for $6,000. Drunkenly, publicly, and repeatedly, Ike Clanton declares that Wyatt Earp is a liar.
$90. You'll give me 100. You'll give me 100. How much you want?
In Ike's fevered mind, Wyatt has added one more debit to a mounting account which he, Ike Clanton, will soon try to collect in blood. To the citizens of Tombstone, the summer of 1881 brings parades, picnics, and a booming prosperity. But for Ike Clanton, it's a hard summer, filled with death and bad omens. Neither he nor Wyatt Earp will ever profit from the capture of the Benson stage robbers. All have been killed in other violent encounters. Now, Ike and his brother Billy mourn the death of their father, Old Man Clanton, killed in ambush near the Mexican border. But a more distant tragedy will bring new threats to the Clantons. With the death in September of assassinated President James Garfield, a new territorial governor, John Gosper, promises early action against all outlaws.
The situation in southeastern Arizona is intolerable. We have at least 100 outlaws stealing cattle on both sides of the Mexican border, smuggling, stage robbing, killing. Unhappily, the local law officers exert little control, either from fear or because they themselves profit from these operations. I have talked with Sheriff Behan and Marshal Virgil Earp. and each charges the other with non-cooperation. Whatever the reason, the stealing and killing must stop. And if the local law officers do not handle this situation without delay, I shall not hesitate to ask the President to invoke martial law.
The governor's warning is answered by another stage holdup between Tombstone and Bisbee. This time, the Earps bring back 2 accused robbers. One of them, an old Clanton ally, the deputy sheriff himself, Frank Stillwell. In the same jail where Bean held Doc Holliday as prisoner, the Earps have turned the tables. Himself charged with possible collaboration with the outlaw gangs, Sheriff Bean now has the galling humiliation of booking his own deputy. Once again, fate has struck a blow at Ike Clanton and his friends. And fate always seems to wear the face of one of the Earps. As he nurses his multiple grudges with alcohol, Ike determines once and for all to bring down these arrogant enemies. On a day in late October, he is ready to try. Now openly declares he will kill the Earps on sight. Once again, Ike Clanton's hatred had found its excuse. Now, at last, out of the tangled web of rivalries, out of the prolonged war of rumor, accusation, and abuse, the central figures of the feud emerged to face each other man to man. The Earps had bullied Ike and his friends, treated him like scum, never given an instant's recognition that he was as good a man as they were. Well, now he would show them. And yet, perhaps there still was one moment when he hoped to be accepted as an equal. How else explain what happened here in the back room of the Alhambra? As strange a prelude as ever occurred before a battle. It was the night of October 25th, 1881. Since 8 p.m., unruffled by Ike Clanton's threats, Virgil and Wyatt Earp have been playing a private game of stud poker with an unlikely group that includes their longtime rival, Sheriff John Bean. At 11 o'clock, Morgan Earp and Doc Holliday sit in on the game. Then 2 uninvited guests asked to join, Tom McClory and the man who since morning has loudly threatened to kill the Earps, Ike Clanton. In a few hours, 6 of these players will face each other in the West's most notorious gunfight.
I never did quite figure why Ike joined the game. Of course, poker is poker. You leave out personal feelings. And I'd had my share of differences with Wyatt. But Ike was a fool to play 2 slick gamblers like the Earps. He was outclassed. Seems like every time he tangled with the Earps, he was outclassed. And now he was losing again. About $300, as I recall. But I think the stakes weren't all on the table. They were inside Ike Clanton. Pride, you might call it. And that was worth a lot more than $300 to Ike. He had to get it back, and he knew only one way.
At dawn, stung by the Earps' silent contempt in the all-night game, Ike's rage again erupts. The ball will open today, he shouts. You, Earps, and Holliday must fight. Ordered home by Virgil, Ike goes instead to the Grand Hotel, where a barman remembers.
Ike Clanton come in here meaner than a wet wildcat. Stood there drinking, churning things up in his mind. I'd heard all about his grudge against the Earps, but when I gave Ike his guns, about 10:30 I think it was, I didn't think anything of it. But I guess I could run out of threats. He had to make his play or get laughed out of town.
But Ike Clanton's vengeance misfires. Surprised as he lurks in ambush, he is disarmed and pistol-whipped by the Earps. Hustled into court, he's charged with carrying weapons in violation of local ordinance. Waiting for the justice of peace, the quarrel flares again when Ike attacks the Earps as cowards. Enraged, Morgan offers Ike the gun just taken from him. Only the judge's arrival prevents an immediate shootout in the courtroom. In hot anger, Wyatt stalks out and counters obscene abuse from Ike's friend Tom McClory. When Tom refuses to draw his gun, Wyatt's wrath explodes. Fined $25, Ike Clanton finds another friend pistol whipped by Earp guns. As they stagger to a doctor, Ike sends a telegraph message. In 20 minutes, brothers and allies at the Clanton Ranch are on the way. On the day of October 26, 1881, the town of Tombstone went quietly about its business, unprepared for the shock soon to reverberate in the streets. This was the day that Ike Clanton had promised that the ball would open, that he and his allies would settle accounts with the Earps forever. Ike kept only a part of his promise. Yet the fight he demanded would become part of our folklore. That gunfight has been retold hundreds of times, more myth than fact. Here, as closely as actual witnesses can tell us, is how it really happened. At 1:15 in the afternoon, summoned by Ike and Tom, armed reinforcements arrived. Billy Clanton, Frank McClory, Billy Claiborne, and Wes Fuller. As his friends gather in front of the Grand Hotel, Ike tells them of the morning's collisions with the Earps. Half a block away, at Haffert's saloon, Wyatt now calmly waits. If the Earp brothers feared trouble from Ike Clanton and his friends, they give no sign. Colonel Hafford, owner of the saloon, recalls,
"I'd heard there'd been trouble. But when Wyatt bought that cigar, I knew better than ask questions. Strange, but with all his reputation, Wyatt had never killed a man. But some men, the quieter they are, the more dangerous they are. There was a tight spring in Wyatt, like a trap. Touch it, and you lost your hand, maybe your life. Standing there, the Earps were calm as Sunday in the park. But when the cowboys went by, I could feel it at the back of my neck. I knew then that the trouble wasn't over. It was just beginning."
"1:30 p.m. Led by Ike Clanton, the 6 cowboys walked their horses past Hafford's corner to the Dexter livery stable. Warily, the Earps keep watch on the moves of the Clanton bunch. Uncertain of the cowboys' intent, Virgil Earp determines to take precautions. From the Wells Fargo gun rack, Agent Marshall Williams loans Virgil a Greener 10-gauge double-barrel shotgun. Offered assistance by Williams, an alarmed Mayor Clum, and members of the Citizen Safety Committee, Virgil simply tells them to take care of themselves and keep out of the way. Like the opening moves of a slow ritual dance, the cowboys again approach the Earps and pass by. Still carrying weapons in defiance of local law, they go to Spangenberg's gun shop, for more cartridges. Now, an animal almost provides the excuse for men seeking violence. Frank McClory's horse steps onto the sidewalk. A minor infraction of town ordinance. Coolly, as if tempting his adversaries, Wyatt insists the law be scrupulously obeyed. For an instant, the feud seems to have reached flashpoint. The sinister pavane continues. Once again, the Clanton men provocatively pass within a few feet of the watchful Earps. A messenger appears. Always eager to play a safe role at the edge of battle, R.J. Coleman, mining broker and town busybody, brings Ike Clanton's final threat. The Earps must now meet the waiting Clanton group in an open fight, he says, or the cowboys will ambush the brothers one by one. Crossing into OK Corral, the cowboys meet Sheriff Bean, who later will claim he tried to stop the fight. It is 2:18 p.m. 5 minutes later, the frontier photographer, Camillus S. Fly, sees a grim body of armed men cross into the vacant lot beside his gallery. Despite the challenge sent to the Earps, the cowboys now seem undecided whether to leave town peaceably or stay and fight. Billy Claiborne and Wes Fuller will soon withdraw, leaving 4 men against 4. The Earps, too, still hesitate. With the arrival of Doc Holliday, Wyatt and Morgan prefer open battle to the threat of ambush. But it is Virgil who waits and weighs. As town marshal, it is his job to disarm the cowboys. But will it be simply an act of duty or the bloody finale of a private feud? Then, at 2:28, Virgil trades the shotgun for Doc's silver-knobbed cane. Virgil has made up his mind. Now informed of the place where the Clantons are waiting, the Earp party turns west on Fremont Street. Passing a local grocer, Virgil greets him with a casual good day. Weakly, Sheriff Bean warns Virgil they'll all be murdered, then scurries to safety in Fly's house as the Earps move on. 2:32, too late for retreat or compromise. Now the guns have the last word. It is over, too swift to grasp. Yet in the later memory of witnesses, those fateful moments will repeat themselves endlessly, detail by detail, slow figures moving in a dream. Advancing toward the Clantons and McClorys, Virgil calls, "I have come to arrest you." In the ominous hush, Billy Claiborne and Wes Fuller abandon the fight. Rigid, the cowboys hear Virgil's command. "You men must give up your arms." Instead, both Billy Clanton and Frank McClory reach for their weapons. "Hold, I don't mean that," Virgil shouts. As Wyatt raises his gun, the three men fire almost simultaneously. Only Wyatt's bullet strikes target, mortally wounding Frank. As Tom McClory reaches for his rifle, his terrified horse rears and bolts, exposing him. Hit in the right wrist by Morgan's bullet, Billy shifts his gun. Again, Billy Clanton is hit in the left side by Virgil's fire. Without firing a shot, Ike Clanton now begs Wyatt for mercy, claiming he is unarmed. Wyatt tells him to fight or get out. As Ike runs to refuge, Doc Holliday fires both shotgun barrels at Tom McClory, who takes the full charge from kneecap to neck. Tom stumbles away to die. As the Earps back into the street, Billy Clanton again fires. Hit in the right calf, Virgil falls, but quickly rises. With his next shot, Billy hits Morgan in the right shoulder. Calmly, Wyatt aims at Billy. Hit in the chest, Billy screams, "You're murdering me." As he staggers forward, Frank McClory shoots at Doc. Missing, he raises the gun again, cries, "I think I have you this time." Doc replies, "I don't believe you have." Morgan fires from the ground, striking Frank McClory in the left temple. Already dead, Frank stumbles into the street and falls. The Earps turn their backs on Billy to gather around Morgan, painfully and seriously wounded. Close to death, Billy Clanton still tries to reload his gun as he staggers off and collapses. As the shooting stops, Camillus S. Fly, the photographer, runs to Billy and takes his gun. Sheriff Behan, their cautious adversary, now tells the Earps and Holliday they are under arrest for murder. But it's an order Behan is not ready to enforce. Though they later will stand trial, the Earps now walk away. The battle, which perhaps all the participants wanted, is done. But Ike Clanton who wanted it most of all, hides in a nearby dance hall, while his friends, Frank and Tom McClory, and his 19-year-old brother, Billy, lie dead in a Tombstone street. It is 2:34 p.m. Five months after the OK Corral fight, it is the Earps' turn to count their losses. Tried and acquitted, they are struck by the vengeance of Clanton friends. Attacked in a street ambush, Virgil is forever crippled. Now in March 1882, Morgan has been shot and killed by hidden assassins while playing billiards in a Tombstone saloon. As Virgil and his wife take Morgan's coffin to California, Wyatt will escort them no farther than Tucson. No arrests have been made for the attacks on his brothers. But now, in swift succession, without proper warrants or license to act, Wyatt finds and kills 3 men. First is the former BN deputy, Frank Stillwell. Next is the hired accomplice, Florentino Cruz. Last is Curly Bill Brosius. Wyatt takes refuge in Colorado. Thus ended the Earp era in Tombstone. Stunned by the OK Corral fight and its brutal aftermath, few in Tombstone were sorry to see them go. For 2 years, the Earp brothers and their enemies had been the center of death and violence. Praised as brave lawmen, damned as cold-blooded killers, they left a legacy of controversy which continues to this day. Departing, the Earps walked into history. Lesser figures in the drama also soon left Tombstone to find destinies more obscure, but sometimes as violent. Fired from office, Sheriff Bean quickly recovered, became head of the Yuma Territorial Prison. Forever maimed, Virgil Earp died as a prospector and peace officer in Goldfield, Nevada in 1905. Parted from Doc, Kate Holliday found a more peaceful life as a boarding house keeper in Globe, Arizona. Doc Holliday gambled, drank, and quarreled until his death of tuberculosis in Glenwood Springs, Colorado in 1887. Pursued as a horse thief, Ike Clanton was shot and killed by a correspondence school detective. Deserted by Wyatt, his wife Mattie became an alcoholic. In 1888, committed suicide in the mining camp of Pinal, Arizona. Josephine Marcus married Bean's rival, Wyatt Earp, and outlived her husband by 15 years. Gambler, saloon keeper, prospector, and peace officer, Wyatt Earp became a living chronicle of the frontier West. A celebrity in old age, he died in Los Angeles in 1929. Tombstone, the town too tough to die, has died often and lives again. Silver Camp Health Resort, it survives by reliving its past for the tourist trade. The macabre figures at OK Corral are now frozen in papier-mâché. Virgil Earp, Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, the McClorys, the Clantons, heroes or villains, who can say? We can know with reasonable certainty what men said or did, but of their motives, of what lay in their hearts and minds at an instant in time, we can be less sure. Yet myths seldom rest on evidence. Like the turbulent panorama of the frontier West, the Earps and the Clantons themselves have become larger than life, puppets of the popular imagination. And if today the men who fought at the OK Corral seem taller, more heroic, better men than they were, it's because we have, at least in part, reinvented them.